All right, what's going on, YouTube? Back with another video. What I wanted to talk about for today is I'm not sure if you've seen this yet, but in case you haven't seen it, I just wanted to share with you that starting as of Saturday, January 17th, 2026, which was yesterday, there now is a brand new weekly show of all new content being put out by WWE. So if you're not already burned out by WWE content each week, well, here you go. Here's another brand new show of all new stuff. I mean, this isn't like just like a recap show. This is all new matches, all new content. So get ready. And it's this is available so far. I've heard of it being available. I know it's in the United States, Central America, and South America, and I haven't seen it. I haven't heard anything about it being available in Europe, Africa, and Asia as of yet, but we'll see what happens with that. Because actually, at first, the way it sounded like in the media, it sounded like this was a show that was only going to be available in Central America and South America. But then, like, just yesterday, I happened to be on YouTube. I'm like, oh, what's this? I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that show was going to be available in the United States with English commentary. Well, that's great, you know? Because actually, what the show is, and it looks like WWE is now doing this to counter AEW Collision on Saturday nights. So every week now, going forward, what they're going to do, what they've been doing is, like since WWE purchased AAA Lucha Libre Wrestling in Mexico, and I thought, well, that's really cool, because now finally I'm going to be able to see maybe an English language version of the show, because like I said for years, okay, well, all right, if there was an English language version of, AAA's weekly show and like also CMLL's wrestling from Mexico, if there was an English translation version of their show each week, yeah, I'd be interested in checking those out. Absolutely. So now we have that now available in the United States. We have, now they're going to be doing it. They have the commentators, Corey Graves, John Bradshaw Layfield, and Rey Mysterio. At least that's the way it was yesterday on the show. So I don't know if they're going to have that be the announced team every week, but I mean, I figured they're going to at least keep Corey Graves doing it on a week-to-week basis, and maybe they'll bring in like maybe Conan, at times, since we've seen him do the the AAA premium live events at times in the past and stuff. So, but anyway, that's the way it was for last night, and anyway, it looks like they're going to do this show. They're going to have it in the United States. They're going to have it air on the on WWE's YouTube channel, whereas like in Central America and South America, they're going to have it on Fox Latin America. So anyway, that I figure I'll run off what matches they had on there, but I don't want to say like, who won the matches or anything like that. I don't want to like ruin the show for people. I figure at least give, for people that hadn't heard that it was available in the United States before, at least give people like an opportunity to like see it, like on their own, make their own decision about it. I guess, a couple things that people said in the comments section of the show on YouTube that made it challenging to watch, though. Now, the show ran for about an hour and 15 minutes, so it's probably one of those shows where, like, they're flexible with the timing, like they are now with, like, WWE Raw on Netflix. Like, maybe sometimes it might go longer, sometimes shorter, depending on what they want to get in and how long they're going with the segments and everything. But anyway, on yesterday's show was about an hour and 15 minutes. And, they started airing it at 9 o'clock, and they made it sound like, okay, it was a live show airing from Mexico. And anyway, what the matches that they had on this thing were, they had Mr. Iguana La Parca, Nino Hamburguesa versus Taurus Hysteria and Abismo Negro in a 6-man tag team match. And for people that maybe were wondering about it, that hadn't really heard the whole situation. Now, the La Parca that you're seeing in AAA wrestling right now, that's not the same La Parca that we were seeing back in the 1990s in WCW. Because that guy, he's moved on from AAA, and AAA had the rights to the gimmick and the name. So that wrestler that previously was in WCW going by the name La Parca, now he's calling himself L.A. Park. So he kind of modified the name, and they say he's still he's still around, in the indie wrestling scene, wrestling sometimes. But yeah, the guy that we're seeing as La Parka in WWE, the AAA right now, that's actually the third guy to be playing that character. They had another guy after La Parka from WCW did it, but unfortunately he passed away in 2020. So this is like the third guy that's playing that character right now. And there was a lot of people, even if you didn't watch the AAA premium live events that WWE's already put out, there's a lot of people on here that you would know. The commentators, obviously, and there was also, you'd see like Santos Escobar and Lola Vice and Penta, people like that. Yeah, El Grande Americano. But let's see what else was on this show. Another match, the second match, we had a Lucha Libre women's match here with the women's wrestlers are in masks there. We have Flammer, the Reina del Reinas champion. She was in there against, Lady Shani. And let's see, also, last match here, we had a winner where the winner will be the number one contender for the AAA Mega Championship, currently held by Dominic Mysterio. And in this match, we have El Hijo del Vikingo with his manager, Dorian Roldal, against El Grande Americano. Now, the weird thing is people might say, like, okay, you watch AAA in Mexico, and you might be surprised to see, like, okay, well, El Grande Americano in Mexico, he's not considered a heel. Everybody's cheering like crazy for El Grande Americano because down there, like, I guess they're doing the storyline where, like, Rey Mysterio, he's a fan of El Grande Americano, and he was on there talking about it. He's like, I really think, El Grande Americano, he's a good guy. I mean, when I extended my hand to shake my hand at that one time, and I could really feel a vibe with this guy. I really seemed like this guy, he's a genuinely good guy, and I mean, Rey Mysterio really went out of his way to put this guy over as a good guy, and everybody in in Mexico on this AAA show, everybody's cheering like crazy, but for El Grande Americano, portrayed by Ludwig Kaiser, so that was different from what you'd see on American television. But I guess like something that also on the show was good to see. How Omos, he's been under a WWE contract for many years, but you never see him on WWE television anymore. It seems like it's been almost 2 years since we've seen him on the Raw roster, but it seems like now that AAA, now they're going to have this weekly show through WWE now, and it looks like, Omos is going to become a regular character. It seems like there's a feud being started up, between, with Omos, involving Omos and El Grande Americano and Rey Mysterio. So that should be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm glad they finally they're finally finding something like, a good regular use for Omos, because, I mean, he's good. In my opinion, I think the weekly show, WWE Raw, would be better if they would find something for Omos and get him on there. But it seems like they only want to have, like, right now, they only really want to have one, like, giant wrestler who's really dominating the scene. And it sounds like that particular position, they want to give that right now to Bronson Reed, so they don't want to have too many monster-sized guys on the show as of right now. So, but, in my opinion, if they could find something for Omos on Raw, I think it would make Raw that much better of a show. I've always been a fan of Omos. So, another thing we got to see was Santos Escobar, who hasn't been on WWE television in the last 3 months. And it's not because he was injured, but they're saying, well, it was the end of his contract, and they weren't really sure. They didn't know if he was going to sign another contract to work for WWE. So the writing department of WWE, they figured, well, our creative team, we really didn't want to get him involved in some big storyline and then find out, he's going to, he's not going to, sign another contract with WWE, so they haven't done anything with him. But here you find out now that Santos Escobar, he's officially signed another contract with WWE. Now they're putting him in a storyline, and where the storyline now is he wants to go for the AAA Latin America Championship, currently held by El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. So they got him back on the show, and let's see. Yeah, so we have that last match, that main event match. In case I didn't explain the other way, that was the winner is going to get a shot against triple or number one contender, or they're going to get become the number one contender for the AAA Mega Championship held by Dominic Mysterio. We'll see El Hijo del Vikingo rather versus El Grande Americano there. So without messing up anything, I don't want to say anything about who won anything, but I guess some things that people said in the comments section on the United States version of the YouTube channel was like people were saying it was challenging to watch because they were disappointed to see that WWE didn't put subtitles when the Mexican wrestlers did their promos. They were hoping to see that. Now they did do it with Dominic Mysterio's promo, but that was recorded in advance. But I think they just didn't. WWE didn't put subtitles underneath the promos this time around, at least because the show was airing live on Saturday night, and it wasn't like this was done days ago, and they probably just didn't have time to put it in there and stuff. So who knows? Maybe if you see this on WWE's YouTube channel on demand, maybe they'll have subtitles in by then. But I know as of right now, they didn't do that. That was something that people talked about that made it challenging to watch because okay, now at the beginning of the show, Rey Mysterio, he cut a promo that ran about 11 minutes and 20 seconds, but it was all in Spanish. So, of course, a lot of people, in the United States, they didn't know what he was saying, So, I mean, that might be something the subtitles might be something that they'll work on in the future. Who knows? And then Penta, he did a promo, he did an interview, and that was in Spanish. And also El Hijo del Vikingo, that was another promo in Spanish, as well as the promo done by El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. That was in Spanish as well. And people were talking about in the YouTube comment section that they wish that they had done English subtitles for that, just to let people know what he was saying, But so I guess this is probably going to be an opportunity for me to learn how to habla some of that Espanol because I feel like I'm gonna have to. Of course I'm gonna want to follow this show. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the Mexican luchador wrestlers ever since the '90s, when WCW and WWE, and then at that time the WWF, were bringing in a lot of the Mexican luchador wrestlers. I mean, hey, in WCW, I was always a big fan of, Juventud Guerrera, Psychosis, La Parca, Super Calo, the team of, Octagon and Galaxy, and Damien, and, Silver King, and Blue Demon, and, it was a style I've always been a big fan of, Villano's 3, 4, and 5, so hey, I'm glad to see that they put up this show, and another thing that people talked about that it didn't really affect me personally though, but it probably will in most cases. People were talking about in the comment section, and they were like, oh my God, there's so many commercial breaks on this show. I mean, they're like, oh my God, I understand this is a free show, but it seems like this show it goes on commercial break every 5 minutes or something like that. Now, with me personally, I'm obsessed with YouTube, and YouTube is one of my favorite websites. So, of course, with me, and of course, since I have a YouTube channel, I have the premium version of YouTube, so I don't have to deal with the commercials and everything. But I understand, that's definitely a very frustrating thing for most people, because most people, of course, don't have the commercial-free version and stuff. So what happened with me, since it was a live feed, what would happen was, okay, it would say on the screen, it would have the logo for AAA, and then it will say okay, we'll be back after these commercial messages or something along those lines. And then I could fast forward through that area where the commercials were, since I have the premium version of it. But I understand. Yeah, that's definitely a frustrating thing if they were putting a lot of excessive commercial breaks in there and stuff. But yeah, for me, because I'm on YouTube every single day. For me, it's worth getting, the premium version of YouTube. So, but anyway, I just wanted to let you know about that because I had seen bunch of news stories coming out, really hyping it up big about, oh yeah, we got this new weekly show for Fox Latin Americas, and we got, so people like in Central America and South America can watch this show. And I'm not sure, I read something about, like, I guess like Brazil is on a different like cable television program or something, so like they won't be able to get it as of yet, maybe. I mean, but I'm not real sure about that, but I was glad to see it's available in the United States at least. So, hey, I mean, so if you're not already burned out on WWE, well, guess what? You're going to be now. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, with the business model of WWE, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, because, like, okay, you figure their business strategy seems to be, look, okay, let's burn the audience out on WWE-related content to the point where there's no way they'll watch the competition, because they don't want people, because of course, naturally they don't want people watching All Elite Wrestling. So you figure they want to put up so much content, people will be so sick of watching WWE, they'll never go to AEW. And when you think about it, because what they're working on right now, if you haven't already heard about, they've been currently filming for at least the last week for the season 3 of WWE Legends and Future Greats. And that's a show I like, because I like to see like the newer up and coming wrestlers just starting out in the business, and they're getting better and better over time. So I like the show. So they're getting ready for season 3. They're taping those episodes. And once they get that done, it's going to be insane when you think about how much WWE content is going to be available every single day of the week. It's like so much people can't even keep up with it. So, because you figure once they get LFG up, take a look at this lineup. They're going to have on Sundays, they're going to have WWE LFG on A&E, the cable station. Okay, then of course Monday they've got Raw. Tuesday they have NXT. On Wednesday they've got WWE Evolve. On Thursday they have their weekly show WWE Main Event. And also, you may as well say, being WWE and TNA, now they're partners, and you see people from WWE like showing up on TNA television, and people from TNA television showing up on WWE television. You may as well say TNA Impact Wrestling, that's now another WWE show. I mean, I basically consider it to be WWE content, especially, they got that working partnership, plus there's, tons of former WWE guys on the show, so hey, you may as well just say that's WWE. And then you figure Friday, then they got the 3-hour SmackDown, and then they got TNA also has another weekly show on Friday, TNA Explosion, and then sometimes they got the pay-per-views on Friday, and then Saturday, like, okay, now they got, or the premium live events on Friday, with TNA and WWE, or I think usually it's TNA that does the pay-per-views Friday, and then like say Saturdays, now you have their show. Now that WWE's putting that show on, Lucha Libre AAA, they got that, plus their premium live events, and sometimes TNA does the premium live events on Saturday. I mean, it's just insane. And then sometimes Sundays you got premium live events from TNA or WWE. It's ridiculous. So they have effectively burned out the audience so that people, they're watching WWE content, they're trying to keep up with it, and they don't get to AEW, not because they don't want to, but because they're so burned out and sick of wrestling, they don't get that far. And that's what happened with me back in 2019. It's like I was enthusiastic about All Elite Wrestling, starting up, and I was intending to watch the show each week. But the thing was, what ended up happening, I watched some of their pay-per-views and some of their big events and stuff. But unfortunately, it's like I never made it to watching All Elite Wrestling on a weekly basis, not till like years later, because it's like I was so burned out on WWE content at that time. It was like by the time I got through long before I was done watching WWE content, I was already so burned on wrestling I couldn't take anymore. Because back in 2018, you figure they had they had Raw, SmackDown, NXT, WWE Main Event, and then they also had WWE 205 Live, their cruiserweight show with the wrestlers that weigh 205 pounds and less. And also back then, they used to have WWE NXT UK. So long before I got done watching that stuff, I was and the pay-per-views. God forbid they had a pay-per-view that week. Oh my God! And or a premium live event. It's like, yeah, I mean anything to burn you out more. So I intended to watch AEW on a regular basis because it seemed like this is a great replacement for WCW Wrestling, which was always my favorite wrestling company. And hey, it felt like WCW, if for no other reason than you got Tony Schiavone being an announcer on AEW Dynamite and an announcer on AEW Collision and stuff. And I felt like when I would watch those shows, AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation, I felt like, well, this feels like when I was in the day, back in the 90s, when I was watching, like, say, like WCW Saturday Night or WCW Worldwide, so I like those shows because it seemed like it really seemed like those old classic shows that aren't around anymore. Or even that show, or WCW's weekly show that aired on Friday or Sunday afternoons. I don't know if you remember, it was WCW Pro. It had the announcers like Lee Marshall and Chris Cruz. They were on there. I think they had another guy sometimes too. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that fortunately, after seeing those reports of Lucha Libre AAA being available in Central America and the United States, yes, it is also available with English commentary in the United States as of January 17th, 2026. So I guess we'll have to see what all happens with that. And, well, I guess I think that's about all I really wanted to say about this right now. So I'll talk to you again after a while.